Okay, we're live here just for a minute, and this is all on the Chad Daybell case. And holy cow! Oh my goodness! Just a second, uh, I just need to make sure that I am live right now at this moment because wow! I mean, I don't even know what to say. Ah, okay. I don't know why it says it's not live, but oh well. I don't know what's going on with this thing. Oh, okay, it's live. Anyway, you gotta love all of these live streams and technology. But if you guys have been watching or watched any part of the coroner's testimony, I think it was the cross and the prosecuting attorney, I think they did do some redirect. However, Pryor did a lot of cross examination of the coroner from the Chad Daybell case. And now, not to be confused with the medical examiner. She is a coroner, which is an elected position. She used to be an EMT and really had no experience when she first got this case. And it shows. But what flabbergasts me with this woman is that she had so many years prior as an EMT. Now she said advanced EMT. I don't know what that means. Is in their terminology, is that a paramedic or is that just an advanced basic? I have no clue. But regardless, this woman was so clueless about her job. And it's even worse that Pryor had no idea what to expect from medical at all. What does a dead body do? And he kept Chad's whole premise is that his wife died sometime in her sleep, and then he rolled over, pulled the blankets, and then she rolled off and fell onto the floor stiff and all this other stuff. She'd been dead. And oh my goodness, he just realized, oh God, she's dead. Oh, Chad. I can only hope and pray that they're going to bring in a medical examiner. Now, the coroner who was brought to the scene couldn't quite figure out that you can't just tug on, I'm going to just pull the blankets a little bit. Now, I don't know how much Tammy Daybell weighed. She wasn't a thin woman. She was not overweight by any means. But when you're looking and considering dead weight, that is extremely heavy. You don't just kind of tug on the blankets and then she's going to fall on the floor. Now with Chad, he just says she just tumbled on the floor. And then another time is that he pulled the blankets and she fell on the floor. I dare anybody to put roughly 170 pounds of weight on a bed, on a blanket, and then you just lightly tug and then watch that fall onto the floor. It's not going to happen. Now, Tammy was found with lividity on her back. She was found face down on the floor. Chad says he called in his son or whatever, and they took her body and put her up on the bed. Reports state she was found face down on the floor. So, and then of course it was all of this. Well, she's taking supplements. The bruises were old, and this is all Pryor kept pushing. Well, those bruises were old, weren't they? You don't find a lot of bruises right away. It takes time for them to show. And a lot of times they're only found during an autopsy if they're cutting through the muscle. When they finally exhumed her body and an autopsy was done and the ME then starts cutting through the various body parts, they find that these bruises go deep within the muscle. They weren't quote unquote old at all. Now, the fact that this coroner, she was inept. I mean, that's all I can say. On the stand, maybe it's because she was afraid. Maybe she was intimidated. Maybe she just froze. Maybe some people tend to freeze when they're being questioned. But holy cow, was her testimony a cluster screw. It was horrible. And the prosecution was no better than Pryor. The entire morning was probably among the worst I don't testimony I think I've ever heard in a case. The prosecution didn't object. Pryor, as his what he usually does, he's a bully. And then later on, when they're talking to friends of Tammy, friends and women who were in clogging and high aerobics courses with Tammy Daybell, because Chad's whole thing was is that Tammy was so sick. She was really ill and she was having seizures and heart problems and passing out. None of that is backed up by people who were with her. And she was doing high, what do they call it? High energy or whatever, the aerobics classes. I don't know what they are. I don't take them. No, thank you. Not interested. But this woman could do 60 minutes worth of high impact. I think maybe that's what's called high impact aerobics and finish the class. That is not a woman who would be sickly and on her deathbed could not do those a couple of times a week and then take a clogging class on top of that. So this was a very active woman. Plus working, I think she worked full time or she worked a lot in the library at the elementary school. This is not a sickly woman. And the fact that the prosecution would not object to Pryor constantly pushing the narrative that Chad was saying she would have seizures, that and she was never diagnosed with the seizure activity or seizure disorder. And then Pryor was saying that the seizures weren't coming from her brain. Yeah, they do. That's where seizures come from, the brain. And anyway, it was horrible and I had to actually walk away. It was the most ludicrous situation I'd ever seen. It was horrible. And I don't know, and the scary thing, again, back to the point, is that there are people in that chat room who are like going, yay, Pryor, get him, get that witness, They forget the fact that this man had 2 children buried in his yard. His wife, who people are now stating that they were in aerobics classes with her 2, 3, 4 times a week for months. We're talking 9, 10 months or longer for that whole entire time. And you don't do that if you're on your deathbed and you're deathly ill. No. And again, shame, shame, shame on you, Pryor. He was shaming Tammy's body. He was like, oh, does she look like she's fit? Is she thin? Is she muscular? Does she look like she's fit to you? Listen, you fat ass. You have no right to talk. You are an overweight defense attorney condemning a woman who's now dead, defending the man who killed her. And then you want to talk about her body? Whoa, that took some guts. You are just shame on you. I loathed you before, but now it's beyond disgust. You are a very sorry excuse for a human. Holy cow. But anyway, yeah, needless to say, I guess you guys could tell I'm not, yeah, it was sad. Very, very, very sad. I don't have any idea who they're going to be calling this afternoon. I just hope that the prosecuting attorneys get their act together. They have 4 attorneys there and they never object. Okay, shouldn't say never. Rarely will they object to the line of questioning that Pryor will do. Like constantly on Pryor's cross, say the judge then says, limit it to the questions about supplements. And then he gets into Tammy's friends. And they don't object. They just let this man ramble. I really am beginning to wonder if anybody is competent other than the judge. I have to say that Judge Boyce, he's amazing. There was one time that he objected because the prosecution didn't. And Pryor's like, well, I didn't hear an objection. And then Judge Boyce is like, well, you didn't, but I'm going to put this in here because. What does that tell you when the judge is doing the prosecuting attorney's job? Everybody. I don't think anybody's competent right now. I feel sorry for these witnesses that are being called in, who are being harassed and, torn apart by Pryor, and not because he's doing a good job in cross-examining. He doesn't stick to the topics at all for the most part. He attacks and he's bullies and he's very arrogant and he's aggressive, and he's never called on his behavior. That is, it's horrible. And I don't know. It's sad. And now I'm beginning to wonder what the jury must be thinking. Because if I were a juror on this case and this is all I could see is what's presented to me right now, I may know in my head that man is guilty. But so far, the prosecution is failing to do their job to prove any evidence at all. And then Pryor's just bullying everybody. Who knows? Unless they get their act together, I'm so afraid this man is going to walk. And his children who still stand by him, knowing children were buried in their yard, one dismembered and burned, another autistic little boy who was duct taped into silence, and they're okay with it. I have a problem. Okay, as you can tell, I'm not a happy camper with this at all. Not at all. What do you do? I mean, we're on the outside looking in and we can't do anything. We watch and, it's all we can do. But again, I'm mortified to see those who are supporting the defense knowing full well of all of the other information available to us, the public, and they think this guy needs to be let free. Would you guys be thinking that if he'd murdered your children? I don't think so. What if your children were found buried in his yard, your grandchildren found buried in this man's yard, and one of them was dismembered and burnt? Would you still be standing by him? It's like people think it's a joke. This is not funny. There are 5 dead people, 4 or 5 dead people due to these 2, Chad and Lori, all because they believed that they were some exalted being, that they were God himself. No lie. This is where these people's brains go. And, Lori's a goddess and Chad is so exalted. And so when Chad says you're dark, they die. And it was those who he called dark that affected their life together that ended up dead. Now, not everybody he determined dark ended up dead. However, those that were in direct opposition and in the path of what they wanted to do are dead. Everybody, without exception. Or they attempted to kill them and they failed. I don't know, folks. Okay, I think I'm, done with my rant for now. They should be coming back here pretty soon in about 15 minutes. I've been watching the trial on East Idaho News, their YouTube channel. And right now, this week, Nate, Nate Eaton is the one who usually covers it, but he's off on vacation this week. So there are other people from East Idaho News filling in and keeping everybody up to date with the trial. But I don't know. Am I kind of just being angry, or do you guys see a problem with this too? Or even if you guys are watching the trial, what are your thoughts about what you see? But again, I'm seeing complete ineptness on both sides. I am so disappointed in the prosecution. I feel they're being lazy and very uncommittal to their job to fight for justice for Tylee, JJ, and Tammy. And I see the prosecution as being a bully, going, well, they're not going to stop me, so I'm just going to keep running over them. It's a poop show right now. Disgusting. So anyway, I'm going to get back to the trial and watch some more of this garbage for the rest of the day. And you guys just leave your comments and let me know what you think. Maybe you guys see something I'm not seeing, but I am not impressed with either side right now. So we'll catch you later.